Why has D'Angelo's funeral been scheduled for next month, weeks after his passing? Is there a reason behind this delay? Could an upcoming medical report reveal something the public hasn't been told yet? And what does his family have to say about it all? Though many details remain under wraps, one thing is clear. The world is eager to understand what truly happened in D'Angelo's final days. Stay with us till the end of this video as we uncover the truth behind the late announcement, the private guest list, and the mystery surrounding his farewell. In the days following D'Angelo's sudden passing, confusion and speculation swept through both the media and his fan base. Reports claimed he had suffered a fatal fall inside his Nashville home, but the details remained blurry. Had it really been an accident? Was he alone when it happened? Or could someone have been with him? Whispers began to spread. Had someone pushed him? Was there foul play? The uncertainty was enough to ignite a wave of rumors online, each one darker than the last. However, a few days later, medical examiners quietly released their findings. No signs of external injuries, no evidence of violence, and no indication of anyone else's involvement. The autopsy confirmed what his family had suspected all along. It was a tragic accident, a misstep likely caused by dizziness from a chronic health condition he had battled privately for years. His sister, Mariah Rivers, pleaded with the public for compassion, asking people to remember the music, not the mystery. In the days leading up to the service, the family released a simple but deeply moving announcement. The funeral would be held at St. Augustine Chapel, the same church where D'Angelo had once sung in the youth choir as a child. The notice requested guests to arrive in muted colors, black, gray, or deep navy, as a sign of respect. No grand gestures, no cameras, no interviews, the statement read. Just music, memories, and love. It also asked that donations be made not in flowers but to the Rivers Foundation for Music Education, a nonprofit he had quietly supported for years, providing free instruments and lessons to underprivileged children. The guest list was a reflection of every chapter of his life. In the front pew sat his sister, Mariah Rivers, and his nephew Daniel, who would later deliver the eulogy. Near them were his parents, now frail but dignified, holding hands throughout the ceremony. Just behind them, an entire row was reserved for musicians who had shared stages and studios with him over the decades. Among them was Marcus Soulfire Grant, the jazz guitarist with whom D'Angelo had recorded his last live session 2 years ago. Sitting beside him was Leona Vale, a Grammy-winning soul singer who once opened for D'Angelo on his Echoes of Blue tour. Her eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, her hands trembling as she clutched a white rose. Eli Navarro, a multi-instrumentalist and lifelong friend, flew in from Barcelona, while Rico Marlen, the drummer from D'Angelo's earliest indie days, stood silently at the back of the chapel, head bowed. From the newer generation, Tasha Renee, a rising R&B artist whom D'Angelo mentored, attended with her manager. She had spoken publicly days earlier, saying, "He taught me to sing truth, not perfection." Also present were Andre Lewis and Caleb Stone, producers who had worked with him on unfinished tracks, both of whom were said to have been preparing his final album before his sudden passing. There were familiar faces from the music world too: Jared Michaels, a blues legend and longtime collaborator, and Nina Corrine, a gospel powerhouse who recorded a duet with him in 2021. Even Reese Holloway, the sound engineer who mixed most of his early demos, made the trip. The chapel filled with people who had shaped his rhythm and shared his silence. Yet beyond the names, it was the energy in that room, a deep, quiet respect that defined the day. There were no flashing lights, no red carpets, no media frenzy, just people who had known him not as D'Angelo the performer, but as Samuel Rivers, the man who stayed late after rehearsals to encourage others, who lent money without ever asking for it back, who believed music was a form of prayer. Inside his final days, those closest to him described an atmosphere of peace and reflection. In his last week, he spent long hours by the window of his Nashville home, writing notes to old friends and scribbling unfinished lyrics. His sister recalled one conversation just 3 nights before he passed. He had asked her to read aloud from his notebook, words that sounded more like farewells than lyrics. "Tell them," he whispered, that I found my harmony." He made a few calls that week. One to Marcus Grant, thanking him for keeping the groove alive. Another to Leona Vale, asking her to finish that song we started. He even reached out to a distant friend, Raymond Tate, a retired saxophonist he hadn't spoken to in years, just to say, "I'm proud of you, man." When the day of the funeral arrived, the chapel smelled of wood polish and lilies. A golden casket rested at the front, surrounded by candles flickering beneath framed photos from his tours. The music began softly, a recording of D'Angelo himself singing "A Quiet Flame," the last song he ever performed live. As the melody played, many in the crowd couldn't hold back tears. The ceremony moved without excess or spectacle. Guests shared glances of understanding, small nods that said everything words could not. Leona Vale and Nina Corrine performed a gentle duet of amazing grace, accompanied by Marcus on acoustic guitar. It was simple, heartfelt, and devastatingly beautiful. When Daniel Rivers took the podium for the eulogy, the room fell completely silent. He spoke not of fame or awards, but of kindness. Of a man who once stopped mid-rehearsal to comfort a young musician in tears. Of the uncle who brought laughter to family dinners, even when pain was eating at him from within. He wasn't just an artist, Daniel said. He was the echo of every soul he ever touched. As the final hymn ended, friends and collaborators gathered around the casket, laying single white roses atop it. No one rushed to leave. Marcus whispered a prayer, Rico traced his fingers across the polished lid, and Tasha Renee quietly sang one last line under her breath. The song never dies. It just finds another sky. Outside, under a soft drizzle, the crowd dispersed slowly. Some hugged in silence. Others lingered, unwilling to let the moment end. It wasn't just the end of D'Angelo's life. It was the closing note of a melody that had shaped countless others. And as the chapel doors shut for the final time, one truth lingered in every heart present that day. Though the man was gone, his music and his humanity would echo forever.